Good evening to one and all. Welcome you all to the Daily Indian Express newspaper analysis for the date 30th January 2024, brought to you by Ganesh IAS Academy. So before the newspaper analysis, I want to give you an important update with regards to the other social media handles which we are providing. So the link for the other social media handles will be provided in the below description. So you can able to have a look into it and join a part of our community so that you could able to receive the important information and other sessions which will be brought to you in the future by the Ganesh IAS Academy. Okay, let's get into the further analysis of the news. So mentioned here are the list of articles which we are going to have the analysis in the upcoming slides. So have a look at it. Okay, let's look into the each and every article one by one. So government brings non-urea fertilizer under price control and fixes the profit margins. So this is the news. So previously the non-urea fertilizers have been decontrolled, but it have been by fixing the profit margin, this non-urea fertilizer is again coming back to the control of government. So this is what the news is about. Let's look into further details of the news. First, we will look into how the news has been related with examination. Under prelims, the news is related to economic and social development. Similarly, under mains, it has been related with GS paper 3. Under agriculture topic, through subtopic called issues related to direct and indirect farm subsidy. So this is how the news has been related with examination. Okay, let's look into further details of the news. See, the government has bought the all fertilizers that receives NBS, that is the nutrient based subsidy under the reasonable control. The reasonable control is nothing but fixing the profit margin for each and every private sectors, those who are producing the fertilizers. And under NBS scheme, which was introduced in 2010, the MRP for the non-urea based fertilizers have been made as the market determined. The government pays only a fixed per ton subsidy on each of this non-urea fertilizer based on the nutrients based on the nutrient percentage of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium as well as sulfur. And the guideline to be for the implementation of the reasonable control will be effective from April 1, 2023, that is retrospective effect. And it has prescribed the maximum margin for the fertilizer firms as 8% for the importers, 10% for the manufacturers, 12% for the integrated manufacturers, that is those who are producing the finished fertilizer and also the intermediaries. And the companies earning above the stipulated percentage, that is the prescribed percentage, need to return the excess profit which they are earning to the Department of Fertilizer. And if they are failing to do so, they will be penalized with the interest rate of 12% per annum. So this is what the details of the news is about. So let's look into other further aspect of the news. What the news is, the MRP with regards to the fertilizer, that is the urea based fertilizer, is 5,360 per ton, and it has remained on the same, more or less on the same price since 2012. The only change that has taken place in the fertilizer prices, the companies being permitted to charge the extra 5% for the neem coated urea, for coating of the neem on the urea. And for the non-urea fertilizers, all are already apart from the reasonable control which is going to be implemented from this year onwards. Even though it has been markedly determined, the non-urea fertilizers has been under the informal control, because this fertilizer prices plays a major role in the political outcome. So it has been under the, even though it has been technically as well as theoretically it has been under market control, it has been under informally under government control only, even before the implementation or the decision that has been made with regards to the fixation of the profit margin. So let's look into the benefits of the nutrient based subsidy. So what is the benefit the government has with regards to the nutrient based subsidy, and what is the rationality in implementing it? Is it will enable the availability of fertilizers to farmers at the reasonable price because of the subsidy that has been provided with respect to to the the nutrient that has been added to the fertilizer, which in turn will be reducing the output of fertilizer, and then it will ensure that there will be rationalized use of fertilizer in the soil because of the subsidy that has been provided across different nutrients with relation to the percentage that it has been added to the fertilizer, and effective usage of the government resource. So it will be reducing the fiscal expenditure in terms of the subsidy that has been given by the government. So these are all the benefits it holds with regards to the NBS. And what does the neem coated urea is about? The urea is nothing but the nitrogen based fertilizer which provides essential nutrients to plants. The neem coated urea is the specialized form of urea that has been coated with neem oil, which slows down the release of nitrogen to the soil, and this reduces the nitrogen leaching and also at the same time volatilization. See, the volatilization is nothing but the conversion of the molecules into vapors which is present in the liquid or the solid state, and it reduces the nitrous oxide emission, which in turn bring down the quantity of urea or the nitrogen fertilizer that has been used excessively on the soil, and at the same time it will be reducing the input cost of the farmers. So this is the advantage as well as the explanation part of the neem coated urea. So what need to be studied further is we should be aware of the other subsidy in India, and then what is this urea gold, and then we should be aware of the minimum support price which is being provided by the government with regards to the other crops, kharif as well as rabi crops, and then the sugarcane crops, so on and so forth. So these are all the things which we needed to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. Why some nation has passed the UNRWA funding? So recently Israel has blamed that this United Nations funding agency for the Palestinian funding agency and its official have utilized the fund as well as its mechanism to finance the Hamas militants. So that is the reason why it has appeared in newspaper. Okay, first we look into how the news has been related with examination. Under prelims, it has been related with current events of national as well as international importance. Similarly, under mains, it has been related with GS paper 2 international relation under a subtopic called important international institution, agencies, fora, their structure as well as mandate. So this is how the news has been related with the prelims as well as mains. Okay, let's look into the further explanation part of the news. See, the United Nations officials has urged the other countries. So based on the request of Israel, the other important countries, those who are contributing to the fund of this agency, has stopped the funding because of the charge that has been made by the Israel with regards to the funding of this agency to the Hamas militant. So for that, United Nations officials has urged the countries to reconsider their decision to suspend the funding for UN agency for Palestinian refugee. And what UN has assured is that they will be taking strict action against the staff if they have been involved in the funding or illegal activities or in support of the Hamas militants. And this agency, this United Nations Palestinian refugees funding agency is very important because it supports 2 million Palestinians in Gaza, and it also acts as the backbone for their development. And what is this UNRWA? What does it mean? UNRWA initially stands for United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestinian refugees in the Near East, and it was founded in 1949 aftermath of the Arab-Israel war, where it led to 70,000 migration of the 70,000 Palestinian because of the occupation of the Palestinian land by the Israel after the war. And this UN agency operates not only in Gaza but also in Israel occupied West Bank, Lebanon, Syria as well as Jordan, because these are all the part of the continent, the Middle East continent, where the Palestinian refugees have been migrated. So they have their presence there also, so that they could able to provide funding for their development. And also at the same time it runs, as I said, development in the form of education, health, relief, social service, microfinance, emergency assistance program for the Palestinian refugees. Currently, 5.9 million refugees who were descendant of the original refugees are accessing the services provided by the agency, and it is being funded by voluntary contribution by donors of states like United States. And what has Israel has accused is, Israel has alleged that 12 staff member of UNRWA have involved in the attack. That is, they have supported or siphoned the fund that has been provided for the relief work to the Hamas militant. So this is what the charge that has been made by Israel. So what is the response from the United Nations is that the UNRWA has denied all the allegation, and out of the 12 officials which has been accused by Israel, 9 were already terminated, 1 is already dead, and 2 other identities still being identified. So this is what the response that has been given by UNRWA for the charges that has been raised again by the Israel. So what will be happening now is that, see, UNRWA is crucial for the survival of those people, those who are living in Gaza, and the agency has been the main supplier of food, water, shelter to civilian, those who are present in the enclave. And then if the UNRWA is going to run out of the money, means it surely will have a huge impact on the millions of refugees who are dependent on the service from this agency. So what need to be studied further is, we should be aware of the recent cause as well as impact of the Israel-Hamas war, and then Israel geography, and then the India-Israel relationship, which has reached the 30th year in the 2022. So these are all the areas which we needed to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. No looking away. So the news is related to the recent interim judgment by ICJ against the Israel. So what is the judgment and what is the impact it is going to create? We will look into it while analyzing this news. First, we will look into how the news has been related with the news examination. Under prelims, it has been related with current events of national as well as international importance. Under mains, it has been related with GS paper 2 international relation. Under a subtopic called important international institution, agencies, fora, their structure and mandate. So this is how the news has been related with the examination. See, the interim judgment which has been pronounced by the ICJ on Israel action on Gaza signals the moral victory for the Palestinian and as well as those who are demanding the end to the Israel retaliatory violence. And the judgment is the censure of the Israel in the genocide case that has been raised by South Africa. What ICJ has stated is that some of the acts as well as omission which has been alleged by South Africa to have been committed by the Israel appears to be capable of coming under the Convention of Genocide. So ICJ also asked the Israel to refrain from such act. So this is a kind of censure to the Israel, and ruling also ordered the immediate repatriation of the hostages held by the Hamas, and Israel's compliance with this interim ruling is not mandatory, even though the ICJ ruling is legally binding. It's one of the lacunae of the ICJ is that it doesn't have any enforcement mechanism. And then the partners of the Israel, that is the US as UK, has repeatedly upheld the Israel as well as Israeli force in the fighting against the Hamas. What they are saying is that Israel is fighting for its self-defense, and they have dismissed the claim with regards to the genocide that has been raised by the South Africa. And the genocide convention which has came up after the World War II act as a deterrent effect to the further human rights violation that will be happening in the future course. So that is the reason why the genocide convention has been made in the aftermath of the World War II. So based on this convention only, the censure of the Israel has been raised by ICJ. And what the conclusion of this article is that even though the ICJ might lack the enforcement mechanism, its interim order is the moral heft for the people. So let's look into the ICJ. It is also known as the World Court, and it is the principal judicial organ of UN, and the seat is being located in the world of peace, that is Hague. And of the 6 principal organ of UN, it is the only organ that has been located in New York, and the hearing of the ICJ is always been public. There are two types of cases are being entertained by the ICJ. First is the dispute settlement between the member countries, and the judgment of this cases is binding on all the member countries. And the second type of case is the advisory opinion or the advisory, uh, the legal question that has been referred to the ICJ by the UN. So the decision of this kind of cases is not binding. So these are all the two types of cases that has been entertained by ICJ. Let's look into the composition of the ICJ. 15 judges who were elected for 9 years term by the majority of the vote in the United Nations General Assembly as well as United Nations Security Council, and 1/3 are elected for every 3 years, and then all the members are eligible for re-election. And what is the advantages of ICJ is that it makes an important contribution to the global peace as well as security, and then it provides way for countries to resolve their issues without resorting to conflict. And then it has a major disadvantages. First is as we have seen, it doesn't have any enforcement mechanism, and it is slow and bureaucratic. So the recent judgment is only the interim judgment. The final judgment will take some years to get finalized, and then no jurisdiction to try the individuals, those who have been accused of war crimes. Since it is not a criminal code, it doesn't have prosecutors to initiate the proceedings. So these are all the disadvantages the ICJ has. Let's look into what are all the things which we needed to be further aware of. First thing is that we should be aware of what is International Criminal Code. We have seen the ICJ, so we have to look into what is the International Criminal Code, its structure, the place where it has been seated, how the members have been elected, and its historical aspect. Secondly, we should also be aware of what are the other organs of United Nations organ, and then we should be aware of India as well as ICJ over the years. So what cases India has faced with the ICJ, and the historical relationship between the both the ICJ as well as India. So these are all the other areas which we needed to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. The new public-private partnership to grow seafood outside the sea. So the news is related to the recent MOU between the Kochi-based research institute as well as the private startup which is based on Delhi with regards to the growing of seafood on the lab. That is the reason why it appeared in newspaper. Let's look into how the news has been related with examination. Under prelims, the news is related to economic and social development. Similarly, under mains, it has been related to GS paper 3 agriculture under the subtopic called issues relating to direct and indirect farm subsidies, technology missions, and economy of animal rearing. This is how the news has been related with the examination. Let's look into further details of the news. So the Kochi headquarters ICAR, that is ICAR's Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, has entered into an MOU with a private startup which is based on Delhi with regards to the, as I said, growing fish meat in the lab. And this institute comes under Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. So okay, first we will look into what does this lab grown fish is about. It is a type of merely a type of lab grown or cultured type of meat, and the seafood without the sea is grown in the same way like the how the crop have been cultivated in the grown inside the lab, and without the need, it doesn't need to raise any kind of animals or kill any kind of animals. The cultivated meat of the fish is being produced by isolating the specific cells from the fish and growing them in the lab under a particular environment which is free of the animal components. The final product will replicate the flavor, texture as well as nutritious quality of the sea-based fish. So this is what the lab grown fish is about. So what is the role the CMFRI as well as the private startup have in the collaboration is, first the CMFRI, the institute will be focusing on genetic matters, biochemical matters, analytical work related to the project, and also CMFRI FRI will carry out research on early cell line development of high value marine fish species, and also it is a process. What does this research on the early cell line development of high value marine fish species is that It is a process which involves isolating as well as cultivating fish cell for the further R&D. So based on this mechanism only, the cultured fish is going to be developed inside the lab. And in terms of private startup, its expertise in the cell structure technology will be leading to because of their expertise in this cell structure cell culture technology, they will be leading their optimization of cell growth media, development of scaffold or micro carriers for the cell attachment, and scaling up the production through the bioreactors. The company will also provide necessary consumables, manpower or any other equipments which is needed for the project. So these are all the respective role being played by the stakeholders. So what is the need to grow the fish meat in the lab? Certainly is, first and foremost, to address the ever growing demand for the seafood. Secondly, it reduces the excessive pressure on the wild resources. Because of the overfishing, it has led to reduced fishing in the ecosystem. That is the reason why it has the lab grown fish is given importance right now. In theory, the lab grown fish meat has significant potential for ensuring the food security as well as environmental benefit, and the lab grown fish will be antibiotic, environmentally contamination free, and it will have no contact with the microplastics. So these are all the benefits and the reason why the lab grown fish has been grown. So what are the countries that is growing fish meat in the lab is, see, large scale manufacturing of the lab grown fish meat is probably some years is away, but Israel has already made a stride on the path, followed by Singapore, China as well as US. So in order to India to upkeep with the technology development that is happening in the lab grown meat, this MOU is very important. And which other kind of meat are being produced in the lab is, so apart from the fish, the meat like pork, lamb, fish, beef, chicken have already been cultured as well as developed in some countries like US. Some private institutes have been given permission to sell their lab grown meat to the public. So these are all the different kinds of meat which is being produced apart from the seafood. So what are the things which we needed to be further aware of is, we should be aware of FAO, is structure, function and objective, and then World Food Program, and then ICAR as well as ICRISAT. So these are all the other areas which we needed to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. Okay, let's look into today's practice prelims question. Mentioned here is the today's practice prelims question. So those students, those who are aware of this, those who are watching this session online, please do comment the option point for the question which you are seeing right now on the board. This we have reached the end of today's session. Please do like, comment, share as well as subscribe Ganesh IAS YouTube channel, so that you will be receiving the daily notification of the current affairs session and also the weekly environmental as well as science and tech section, science and tech session, and also any other important session which will be brought to you in the future by Ganesh IAS Academy. Thank you.